like to call a meeting to order if we could, please. Really appreciate everyone coming out. Wish we had more chairs. The monitors in the exterior hallway are on so that you can watch and listen in out there. There are some benches out there if that helps, but we appreciate you coming. We're very grateful and appreciative that we have Ross Halbersema from the New Hope Bible Church, or Alliance Church, I'm sorry, sir, to offer us an invocation. Thank you.
Let us pray. Almighty Father, the creator of the universe, the one who knows us, knows our thoughts, our intentions, better than we know ourselves, may your presence, we recognize your presence here tonight. This is a great intersection of community. This room is filled with ideas and dreams and resources beyond the imagination. And most likely, each of us hope for a reality tomorrow that we can pass on to future generations and enjoy even today. So as ideas are shared, thoughts are shared, insights are shared, opinions are spoken, may we remember that we are community. We are neighbors. We are friends. And may the input of this meeting tonight guide those whom we've elected to act in wisdom on behalf of the whole. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Colonel Lofton, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Remain standing, face our flag, and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes?
We have none, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Move for approval.
Motion to approve and a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. We'll adopt our agenda as presented. Citizen comments, agenda items that are not subject to public hearing. Did anyone sign up?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The consent agenda, how would the board like to handle that one?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Dunn.
I'd like to go and remove the item on the census and have that not part of the consent agenda.
Is that a motion, sir?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Ayes have it. We'll remove that from our agenda and our consent agenda and insert it. I guess just before board comments. Okay. It's a resolution concerning the consensus. Thank you. All right. So that would leave the rest of the consent agenda. Motion to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Consent agenda is adopted as amended. And we will need a roll call on that. Supervisor McCarthy.
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter.
Aye.
Supervisor Wells.
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton.
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn.
Aye.
Supervisor Trout.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries. That will bring us to Board of Supervisors comments. Are there any?
There is one.
I'm sorry. Let me go to Mr. Tierney.
Okay.
You want to take up the item you pulled from consent?
I'm sorry, we did stick it in right there. So, would you care to speak to that, Mr. Dunn?
Sure. So on the consent agenda, in the first whereas, it says, whereas every 10 years, Article 1, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution mandates the count of all the people living in the United States and its territories. I'd simply like to change the word people to citizens. The process determines who is the congressional representation, so I'd just like to change the word people to citizens, and I would so move.
Heard the motion. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
And a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Supervisor McCarthy.
Well, I believe I understand Supervisor Dunn's intention behind that, and that having citizens counted has an accurate representation in Congress, accurate allocation of funds from the federal government into the state. As an attorney, I feel compelled to point out that the United States Constitution doesn't mention the word citizen in that clause. So I do take a little bit of an umbrage with trying to change what the Constitution says through our resolution.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? All right, I've heard the motion and the second. Is there any further discussion? All right, Supervisor McCarthy?
No.
Supervisor Slaughter?
No.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Trout?
No.
Chair votes no, the motion fails. The resolution will be adopted as presented. We need to deal with that separately, Mr.
Adoption.
I'm sorry?
We failed to amend it. Do we need to deal with it separately?
I think you should probably act on the
Okay, so I
resolution.
entertain a motion to adopt the resolution proclaiming Census Day as presented.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. We'll adopt that. Okay. Now, Board of Supervisors comments, are there any? Yes, sir.
This is more of an announcement than it is a comment, but I want to take advantage while everybody's in the room, because I know that when it's all over, everybody's going to leave. On April the 2nd, Frederick County is going to host a trash forum, so I'm talking a little trash here, and please don't leave any in. If you got one of these, don't roll it up and throw it in the parking lot. It'll be out at our public safety building. There'll be door prizes and refreshments, great presentations. You'll get to see all about our landfill facility, what happens to trash, what kind of money we make off of it to help the county save money. So it'll be a great day. It's from 7 to 8:30 p.m. on April the 2nd. Love to have you there.
This is hosted by the Public Works Committee. Hope you can come out. All right. Bring us to county officials, committee appointments. Handy Regional Library Board, I think we're still waiting for them. Extension Leadership, Back Creek.
Mr. Chairman, I do have someone who's interested in that position, but I have not got them to fill out the form yet, and I will be presenting that next meeting.
All right, sir, thank you. We had been looking for Board of Equalization. We'll continue to accept applications on that until late summer, when we'll come back, bring those back before the board to deal with them. Finance Committee, Supervisor Slaughter.
Yes, sir. The Sheriff Department Sheriff requests a general fund supplemental appropriation in the amount of $17,818.14. This amount represents 2 auto claims to be used toward a replacement vehicle and vehicle maintenance. No local funds required. The committee recommends approval, and I would so move.
Heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, we need to do a roll call on this one. Supervisor Trout?
Aye.
Supervisor Dunn? Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells?
Aye.
Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Supervisor McCarthy?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
Item number 2, amendment to Frederick County Code, Chapter 155, Taxation, to add an Article 3-A, exemption for surviving spouses of certain persons killed in the line of duty. This item has been approved and forwarded from the Code and Ordinance Committee. A public hearing would be required. The committee recommends scheduling a public hearing, and I would so move.
And the motion is to forward to a public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And I apologize again because we'll do roll call. Supervisor Trout?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Supervisor Lofton?
Aye.
Supervisor Wells? Supervisor Slaughter?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the motion carries.
And lastly, the Audit Committee met also on Wednesday, March the 8th at 8 a.m. David Foley from Robinson Farmer Cox presented the comprehensive annual financial report, most complimentary to our staff, and how meticulous our bookwork was. So my hat's off to the Finance Department for their very good work.
Absolutely.
And that concludes my report, sir.
Thank you. All right, that'll bring us to the public hearing pursuant to Virginia Code, conveyance of the county's interest in real property. Mr. Tierney.
Mr. Chairman, as I know the board is aware, when the Frederick County School System declared the old Frederick County Middle School as surplus, the county took possession of that property. That was back in December of 17. Shortly after that, we put out an invitation to bid to receive bids on the property. We only received one bid. We rejected that bid. Then in October of last year, we listed the property with a realtor. In February, we got an offer for the property and a contract. So we scheduled this public hearing, which is required by state code before we dispose of public property. Subsequent to that advertisement, we received a second offer on the property. That was last week, and as late as today, we have gotten revised offers from both of those parties. So it's staff's suggestion that following the public hearing, the board might authorize staff to work with the two parties that are interested in the property to try and bring back to you ultimately the most desirable contract for the county. At this point, I can't tell you how long that might take, but we would work diligently to do that. So that with that, this is a public hearing on the disposal of the property.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions, Mr. Tierney? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to comment concerning the proposed disposition of county property, the old Frederick County Middle School property? Anyone? Anyone at all? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion in the direction that Mr. Tierney suggested.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second?
Second.
Second, is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Trout.
at this time, I would like to entertain the idea of retaining the property for a possibility for an aquatic center for Parks and Recreation. So I know we want to get more information about these offers, but I want to keep that kind of in the forefront of our minds because I think that is a good move for the future of our county is to keep the property.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, no? And we'll forward that to our agent. That will bring us to the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget, Mr. Tierney.
Given the lack of comment on the last item, I guess we know why people are here. For the audience's information, really, this is close to the end of our annual budget process, which begins annually in October and November as departments and agencies that we fund submit their requested budgets to our finance department, who then compiles all that information and provides it to the board in summary form. We've had numerous budget work sessions as we worked our way through this to get to the point we're at now. I'm going to try and walk through some of the numbers to give folks some level of understanding, at least of where we are, where we've been, and maybe where we're headed. So with that, we begin the process by providing to all the departments and agencies a list of the board's priorities that are transferred to us through the Finance Committee and the chair of that committee. And you can see the priorities are fairly consistent with last year. Public safety and education needs were the highest priority. address capital needs, emphasize transportation, schools, and public safety, address staffing needs. What's new on this particular list is to try and implement a succession plan, which you'll see reflected later on. And then to just be aware of uncertainties. As always, state funding is uncertain. That's nothing new. This year, we were expecting a significant increase in our health insurance costs. And this is also a reassessment year, so that throws an additional variable into our process. From an administrative perspective, our priorities, as always, are to try and be as efficient as possible, reduce costs where we can, prioritize those new funding requests that we get, address staffing needs, and again, new this year, trying to implement some sort of a succession plan, provide sufficient employee compensation to retain quality staff and ensure county schools and county general fund address capital needs. And something that rose from that was the establishment of a capital fund, which I'll talk more about later on. In starting the process, compared to last year, FY19, our budgeted revenue for the current fiscal year we're in was $179.5 million. Our projection for the coming fiscal year is $190.5 million. So there's an increase anticipated of roughly $11 million. And then the calculation below that just simply gives you a breakdown of where we anticipate that money coming from. The largest share is just natural increases in the economy and fees, et cetera. The $3.3 million is what's anticipated from the real estate reassessment. The $280,000 is contingent on the boards increasing the transient occupancy tax by 1%. The note is that that funding, if that's where we end up, has to be used for tourism purposes. And then the 600 and some odd thousand is just miscellaneous types of funding that we get that's typically program specific. As part of the budget requests, we received 55 position requests. As you can see from the chart, the vast majority of those were public safety related. The school systems request, they had 40 position requests, teachers and school bus aides being the lion's share of those. This just sort of represents, out of the entire budget, $340-some million. You can see that 63% of that is school-related, 18% is public safety, and then the remaining 19% is everything else. This table just tries to break down and show comparison to last year of where we anticipate those revenue increases coming from. You'll see that, again, the largest increase is a result of property tax increases, general tax increase. The bottom I'll get more into later, but fund balance funding relates to the capital fund that we've established, and I'll try and explain that in a little more detail as we get further into this. Again, general fund revenue showing where the funds come from. General property taxes is the largest by far, that piece of the pie. The second largest is other local taxes. So basically 86% roughly of our general fund revenue comes from local sources. Again, this is looking at where the money's going. Budgeted expenses, FY19, current year, the left-hand column, FY20, the proposed increases. You'll see the biggest increases are in public safety at roughly 3.6 million, and the transfer to the schools at another 3.5 million roughly. And then the new capital fund down at the bottom is the 7 million. This is just displaying, again, the general fund expenditures in sort of a graphic way. 52% of those expenses are related to the transfers to the school system. And then the next biggest piece, obviously, is public safety at 21%. Trying to sort of summarize where we ended up in terms of budget, or where we think we're ending up. 1.6 million is earmarked for capital. We have left funding for all outside agencies, non-government outside agencies at level funding, with the exception of those where we have joint agreements with other municipalities and/or funding formulas that we're obligated to adhere to that are population-based and things of that nature. We have roughly $2 million earmarked for merit and COLA increases of 4% for the employees. We budgeted $706,000 for the health insurance increase, which we anticipated. That's not going to cover the increase. The rest will be made up through modifications to what we offer and premiums. I mentioned that there was 55 positions in the budget request. The proposal as it currently stands is to fund 23 of those. 17 of the 23 are directly related to public safety, with 9 school resource officers, 6 firefighter EMTs, an assistant chief, and a public safety communications supervisor. The total of all those positions is roughly 2.3 million. We utilized, or are proposing to utilize, $7 million out of fund balance to create a capital fund. We are proposing to transfer to the schools just over $4 million for their operating fund, another $4 million for capital, and then the increased debt service is $1.7 million. That leaves $736,000 that we're leaving sort of as a contingency fund that may be used for other purposes. I've mentioned a couple times now a capital fund, and to try and elaborate on that a little bit, the county policy is that we maintain 17% of our annual operating budget as a rainy day fund, if you will, for lack of a better term. What we're proposing is that if and when that reserve gets to or above 20%, that we take that amount over and above the 20% and move it into a designated capital fund. What we're proposing, if we were to follow through with that as we currently stand, would result in us moving $7 million from our fund balance into that new capital fund. If we establish that as a policy moving forward, what we would do is at the end of every fiscal year, when we do the year-end square up, we would move money at that time into that capital fund. As I mentioned, it's $7 million as we stand now, if that's where we end up. In past years, we've done a variety of things when it comes to funding capital. We've taken a lump sum and divided it on a traditional 57-43 split, with 57 going to schools and 43 coming to the general fund side of the house. We've funded specific projects. We've done a number of different things. But if we adopt this policy, we'll have a designated fund, and we can look at capital needs annually and draw from that fund as we see fit, and that would be part of the annual budget process. So under the current proposal, we're proposing of that $7 million to transfer $4 million of it to the schools. They, to their credit, have created a capital asset preservation program, where they've got their facilities and key components of them earmarked for annual ongoing maintenance. And as you can see, we listed it as they stood when we got them, the school's priorities for capital. That's subject to change, of course, as the school board adopts their budget. 1.6 million of the 7 we've earmarked for other county needs, and you can see a list of those there. They vary everything from equipment for Parks and Rec to HVAC system for the Bowman Library. This just shows sort of a trend historically over the last number of years, a steady increase in the general fund budget. I would point out that if you look at FY 17 to 18, there was a very small increase versus this year to the proposed next year. And the majority of that is the capital. On the county side of the house, we funded very, very little capital, if any, last year. School operating revenues, this just really depicts of the sources of revenue for the school system last year to the projection for this coming year, the increases, and you'll see that the largest increase is in the general fund transfer to the schools, followed by the state anticipated an increase of about $3.5 million. This just shows increases in those school funds that we contribute to through the general fund. So you can see that there's about $11 million increase from various sources through those particular, to those particular funds. School operating fund revenue, again, just showing in a different fashion the lion's share, the gray on that slide, 49% of the funding comes from local transfers. And then the next biggest share, obviously, is the state at 47%. This shows the increase in the school's operating budget. It's similar, as you would expect, to the slide you saw previously. Transfers from that general fund, again, showing the consistent increase over the last number of years. This just shows where we are with our real estate rate. The board's advertised rate was to leave the rate at 61 cents. I mentioned it's a reassessment year. The board could choose to roll that rate back to a revenue neutral rate or something in between. If that were to happen, obviously, the numbers I've just showed would have to change fairly significantly. Conversely to our real estate tax rate, our personal property tax rate is kind of on the high side, as you can see. Our local tax revenue, those pie charts I was showing, when we show revenue from local taxes, it's approximately 50-50 between personal property and real estate. This just shows median household income to show where we stand kind of on a household income basis compared to those same localities where we've shown you the tax rates. So again, tonight is a public hearing on the budget. The board's not expected to take action on the budget tonight. That will happen at your April 10th meeting. I'm happy to try and answer any questions if you have them. Got finance department members here to help me if we need it.
Thank you, sir. Questions of Mr. Tierney, anyone? Thank you very much. So this is a public hearing. Ms. Phillips, would you begin to call folks forward? If you could come forward when your name is called. When we finish all those who have signed up, we'll see that they're expect that there are others, and we'll do with those. If you'd come forward, give us your name, magisterial district, and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, please. Phillips.
Kitty Hockman Nicholas.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished board, I am Kitty Hockman Nicholas from Hedgebrook Farm, an elected official representing Frederick County on the Lord Fairfax Soil and Water Conservation Board. Frederick County has 681 farms with over 100,000 acres. We work with people who work the land. Our streams, rivers, and tributaries are of high importance to our 12-member board and dedicated staff, keeping livestock from entering the waterways with fencing and providing trees to balance the natural surroundings. We manage animal waste and nitrogen runoff from going into the waterways. Without taking care of our water, we will not provide clean water for generations to come. It is so important to keep this in mind. We also sponsor envirothons to get young school-age children involved in thinking about clean water, air, and land. This year, we have 9 schools participating in the Envirothon. We ask you, do you brush your teeth? Do you take a shower? Do you take a bath? 30 gallons of water every time you take a bath. Do you wash your clothes? Do you do your laundry? Do you wash your car? Do you water your plants and your garden? And most important, do you fix leaks on your property? The average household uses 400 to 500 gallons of water a day. That's a lot. Marietta Walls and I are asking for an additional $4,000 to continue to take care of and improve our waterways in Frederick County. This is so important for each and every one of us. We are all residents in our beautiful county. We all use water. Please help us to preserve our water for generations to come, which also protects our food. And that's another important thing. Protect the water to protect our food. We are farmers, a lot of us still in this county, and without good quality water, the farmers can be going out of business, and so will our local food. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Marietta Cather-Walls.
Welcome, Ms. Moore. You'll want to pull that microphone. Perfect. Thank you.
Chairman DeHaven and other board members. I am Marietta Cather-Walls, and I represent Frederick County. I am an elected director for the Lord Fairfax Soil and Water Conservation District. And as Kitty alluded, we work together monthly and on the board to help preserve the water in our area. Our public water comes from the Shenandoah River, and all the runoff, whether it's from households or farms, affects the quality of our water. I brought a show and tell. Do you want brown water or do you want clean water? I'm a veterinarian, and the quality of our water affects our direct health. We see it in our pets, we see it in people. Cancers, all kinds of health problems can be created by poor water. We need to spend our money educating people. The money that we get, last year, the board from Frederick County gave us $7,000. We also work with Shenandoah and Clark and Winchester, and they have given more money to help us run the education programs. People can apply for grants through the state and federal government to help keep the soil on the ground and also not put so much fertilizer on the ground. Everybody who has a yard that puts more fertilizer on that's supposed to can affect the quality of our water. So with a slight increase, last year with $7,000 that you all gave us to manage, we brought back to our community $169,000 through the programs that were directed through the employees of the Lord Fairfax Soil and Water District. So this year, we are asking for $4,000 more because this year, we have already people signed up to do $287,000 worth of projects through the state and federal government. So not only does it help us to make our water quality better, but it also brings local jobs in for people to do fencing and do other things that can be done on these farms to help eliminate things that will run off into the water. And we know how much water we've had this year, and there's also programs for stormwater and rain barrels and things that we can do just as individual citizens, but we need to educate people on how to do these programs. So thank you very much for your attention, and please pay attention to our water because we need clean water for our health. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Elwell.
Good evening. My name is Michael Elwell. I'm the Director of Northwestern Community Services. As you all know, behavioral health issues affect all of us, our families, people who have mental illness, who have substance use issues, and people who have developmental or intellectual disabilities. And Northwestern is a public nonprofit agency that tries to meet the needs of all those folks. Very difficult process that we have to go through to do that. But I'm really excited to give you some announcement of some new programs that we're operating in our region. One of them is a housing program, a permanent supportive housing program. Housing is probably the #1 issue that faces our clients. So we have a program that we're currently implementing that takes people who are at risk for homeless, who have behavioral health issues, and place them in their own apartment and provide supports to them. So that's a really good, very successful national model. In addition to that, we are just in the final stages of putting together an innovative program that's going to be operating out of Winchester Medical Center right by the emergency department, which is a receiving facility so law enforcement can drop off a person they have in custody who's in a crisis, and they will transfer the custody to an off-duty law enforcement officer and actually go back and work their shift instead of spending 8 to 10 hours in an emergency department somewhere. So all of the regional hospitals and Valley Health systems are going to start to funnel people into that area. So that is going to prove to be a very, very helpful program to our system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Faith Power.
Good evening. I'm the Executive Director of the Laurel Center, which I believe many of you know provides critical services to individuals that have experienced domestic and sexual assault. Those services are emergency shelter and support services. I'm here tonight simply to thank each and every one of you all for the financial support that you all have provided to the shelter since 1999. It's so critical to what we do. We couldn't do it without your support. I'm also here to see if you have any questions. I know many of you know that we've moved into a new facility, and that seems to have raised some questions in the community about what we're doing, how many people we can serve, and maybe leave you with a few statistics. So I ask you, do you have any questions about the shelter and how we've spent the financial resources that you've given us?
So we appreciate the question. Let us get back to you
Okay.
on that one.
I will share with you that last year we served over 200 Frederick County residents. Of those residents, we provided 204 nights of emergency shelter. To provide an individual with shelter, it's about $72 a day. And that just really includes food and clothing and utilities. and that cost was $14,688. We received $6,000 from the county, and again, we're very appreciative of that. So far, this quarter, we have served 89 Frederick County residents, and we have provided 178 nights of emergency shelter for a total of $12,816. I think the trend line is that we will end up serving more residents in shelter. There is that national discussion around domestic and sexual assault. I think many people are becoming aware that they're can reach out for services, particularly to the Laurel Center. And so, again, we're very appreciative of the financial support that you've given us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren Cummings.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Tierney. Thank you so much for having me. I want to thank you for your continued support of the Northern Shenandoah Valley Substance Abuse Coalition and the Northwest Regional Adult Drug Treatment Court. Since we first started the Drug Treatment Court, we have served 50 clients with 38 current clients in the program. We have 2 more pleading in next week. We've had 31 clients with cases from Frederick County, and we have seen many lives transformed in the program, and we have a number of current clients who have been substance-free for more than a year. We are very excited about a program that we are launching this coming Sunday at our Play for Prevention event that's being held at Jameswood High School at 2 o'clock. The program is called Give Me a Reason. It's a drug prevention initiative, and thanks to a Rotary Club grant, we will provide local parents with saliva-based drug testing kits. The goals of this program are to give youth a reason to say no to drugs, encourage parents to talk to their kids about drugs, identify early substance use, and intervene before more severe consequences occur. If the tests are never used, but it starts a conversation, then our goal is realized. You probably read about a grant the coalition received from the Aetna Foundation. It's a 3-year grant that will allow us to create a multidisciplinary team consisting of a law enforcement officer, a case manager, peer recovery specialist, and a counselor that will respond to non-fatal overdoses. They will be offering individuals treatment rather than incarceration. Last year, in 2018, in Frederick County, there were 44 non-fatal overdoses and 12 fatal overdoses. We are continuing to support our treatment community through programs like our monthly clinical lunch and learn sessions. Finally, I have to mention that just as you hear that individuals are overdosing every day, and some tragically dying, please know that there are also people recovering. And it is the coalition's vision to help as many people in our community as we can realize the promise of recovery. Thank you for your continued support of our efforts.
Thank you.
Deborah LaBoy.
Hi, I'm Deborah LaBoy. I'm a Frederick County bus driver, and I'm here today to let you know that I've been with the county since 2005. I have awesome transportation. John Grubbs, Beth Brown, and Andy, they keep the buses up and running. There's over 257 buses, give or take. And that is an awesome feat to keep that many buses up and running. And last year, I just want to say thank you. Last year was Christmas because we got 30 new buses, and I was so shocked. I have never seen, I brought family saying, God, I see these buses. I've never seen that many buses in my whole time being a bus driver. But sad to say, out of 257, there's still 28 of them puppies that have over 300,000 miles. They're 20 years old. And as a bus driver, it breaks my heart when my bus breaks down, because that means my babies are out there in that cold who win. And, we need, as we redo our schools and rebuild our schools, we need to continue to rebuild our buses. And, you know, it takes money to keep that up there. And I grant you, they're expensive, but when you have your kids out there in the 16-degree weather and snow and cold waiting for a bus that has broke down, Beth Brown is on the road trying to figure, hey, can you go and pick up this kid? Yes. You know, buses, drivers come to help. But, you know, as Frederick County, you have a huge transportation, and they do an awesome job. Andy and his mechanics do an awesome job keeping them buses up and running. And with 300,000, 28 of them with that high number, I had one of those doggies you think, I'll put a new motor in. Well, a new motor is great, but that doesn't work because you know what? The rest of the bus is old. The rest of the bus is falling apart. You look out the window and your stop sign is hanging off. Oh my gosh, you know, give me a break. I mean, you really, really, you know, the buses, you know, a bus driver, if you can get in the morning, get on your bus, it turns on, that's a blessing already. And to get done with your route and not have breakdowns, you know, these kids are our babies, and we love them. So, you know, I just say thank you for what you did last year, and this year, would you continue to upgrade the buses, and you know, so that we, as drivers, can go out there and pick them up. And that's all I think I have to say. You know, very much, and I'm nervous to get out. Okay, time to go.
Thank you.
Amanda Feaster.
Good evening to the board. I'm speaking tonight as a resident of the Shawnee District, as a parent with a child currently at Ayler Middle School, and as an educator. I'm a teacher at James Wood High School. I have two specific points I want to make to the board tonight. As a teacher at James Wood High School, I can assure the board that not only are we in desperate need of more teachers to address overcrowding, but James Wood itself is in desperate need of upgrades, excuse me, and improvements. These are not for appearance, it's all for functionality. James Wood's not alone in that there are numerous other schools in the system that are in desperate need of repairs. My second point aims to address a trend that I see both as a resident and as an educator. The board seems ecstatic to welcome new businesses, Amazon being a prime example. And while that is great for economic boost, that comes with a great responsibility. That responsibility being funding the resources that come with economic boom, namely EMS, the Sheriff's Department, and education. We are all well aware of the pay gap for teachers in regards to the salaries in Loudoun County. I want the board to clearly understand the implications of this vote. In the past 3 years, my building alone has lost 8 seasoned teachers with combined 100 years of experience to Loudoun County. That's in my building alone. I suspect the other schools are on par with that number, but I can't be sure. Teachers certainly don't expect Loudoun's salary, but the board needs to start addressing narrowing the wage gap if the board recognizes the importance in hiring and retaining highly qualified teachers. Currently, I call it a starter community, much like a starter home that one would buy when they're starting out their life. They keep it for a little while and then trade up when they're able to. And that seems to be what's going on in education. This is the trend in Frederick County. Teachers are hired right out of college. They stay for a few years, and then they take their experience over the mountain for positions in Loudoun that pay significantly more. We need to hire, and more importantly, retain quality teachers to keep up to par with the trends in education. Our tax rate is very low. That doesn't come without a heavy cost. Currently, with a 61-cent tax rate in comparison, Winchester's is 91 cents, Warren County is 66, Rockingham County is 74, and Fauquier County is 98. The school board is requesting $9.4 million, mainly coming down to a 4-cent tax increase. Teaching is a sacred responsibility. I am aware I am teaching our future teachers, EMTs, firefighters, and police officers, perhaps even students that will one day sit in one of your chairs. So we ask you to please fund our future.
Thank you.
Carrie Muller.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Mueller, and I live in the Redbud District. As a citizen, I've been trying to understand the proposed budget. I appreciate and thank Supervisor Slaughter for developing a budget that would allow one-time monies to be allocated to the school division. While this doesn't help in future budget cycles, it does, however, support funneling one-time money for educational services. While seeking to learn more about the proposed budget, I came across the core values adopted by the Board of Supervisors in December of 2009. Some of the values include a government concerned with long-range planning that protects our rural heritage and directs its future growth through planned infrastructure. A government that looks to the future and implements plans to ensure that the quality of life for future generations is preserved. A government that emphasizes a quality education through a cooperative effort with the school board. A government that recognizes the importance of maintaining a highly trained public safety program to provide efficient services and protection to county citizens. A government unit based on honesty, trust, integrity, and respect that understands the importance of clear communication and willingness to listen. The budget proposal put forth for this year does not align with the core values. The proposed budget is short-sighted and does not show an emphasis on quality education through a cooperative effort with the school board, nor does it recognize the importance of maintaining a highly trained public safety program. The budget does not allow for planning for the future. In the determination to maintain lower taxes and add categorical funding to the school division, members of the Board of Supervisors supporting this are shortchanging the younger citizens who will be left with aging infrastructure and subpar services in education and public safety with no gain. This is not fiscal responsibility, long-range planning, or responsible stewardship. Citizens in Frederick County are begging you to support public safety and education. I am asking you to be forward-thinking and remember that the Frederick County Board of Supervisors webpage opens with the statement, ensuring the quality of life of all Frederick County citizens by preserving the past and planning for the future through sound fiscal management. Please honor the commitment you made to all citizens of this community and support a budget that allows education and public safety to try to maintain the quality services they provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, I'm going to ask you not to turn this into a pep rally, please. I mean, we respect and appreciate your comments, but it's really going to slow down the process. Ms. Phillips.
Joseph Niedrich.
Mr. Thank you. Very good.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Niedrich, and I am from the Redbud District. 2 years ago, my wife and I decided to uproot our family from Virginia Beach and settle here in Frederick County. We had multiple reasons for this decision, but regardless of the reason, we chose to settle here instead of the surrounding counties. On our many trips from Virginia Beach to Pittsburgh, we often stopped in the Winchester area to eat, stretch our legs, all the while thinking to ourselves what a beautiful area and how it reminded us of our hometowns. Over the years and many, many miles, we grew to love this area each time that we stopped by. And when it was time to make a decision, Frederick County was a no-brainer for us. Economically, it checked all of our boxes: housing prices, cost of living, real estate taxes, population growth. The schools were comparable to those that we had attended as kids, and so we felt our kids would be well served in them. Over the past 2 years, my wife and I feel as though we have ingrained ourselves in this community, working hard for the students and families that we serve. At first, it was difficult, coming from a school system with what seemed like bottomless pockets and an endless amount of resources. I questioned why we don't have those things here. It wasn't until Dr. Sovine's budget proposal that I understood why. When this current school year's funding was not met, I started to see the writing on the wall, last year's, I should say. Frederick County is growing, but those who make budget decisions seem not to be. Over the past 18 years, approximately 30,000 people have come to Frederick County. In 2017, we had the highest growth rate in Virginia at 2.1%. Additionally, we are the second fastest growing region in Virginia, behind Northern Virginia. That's since 2010. I have a suspicion that as Northern Virginia grows, so will Frederick County. This growth will require more schools, more teachers, more school buses, more resources, more first responders, et cetera, et cetera. How will we pay for that? Like most municipalities, the answer usually defaults to taxes. The current real estate tax is not enough to fund our growing population. The sheriff's office has asked for additional deputies. Fire has asked for additional firemen and firewomen, additional resources. The schools have asked for additional teachers, and it continually falls on deaf ears. Last year, I heard the excuse that raising taxes would impact those on a fixed income. I'm not sure that it will. The average home value in Frederick County is $260,000. According to Dr. Sovine's budget, a 1-cent increase will result in $26 a year. That's $2.16 a month. I'm going to cut this short. The one question that scares me most is I fear some elected officials' mindset is not growing at the rate of this county. It's time to stop kicking the can down the road and give the people of the community the resources they need to improve their quality of life. Remember, when you make the people who serve this community a priority, you make the people which whom they serve a priority. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Serena Omps.
Hi, my name is Serena Umps, and I'm a resident of the Stonewall District. I've been a member of the Frederick County community for the majority of my life. I graduated from Millbrook High School, went away to college, and then returned here to raise my family and to settle here. My husband is a Jameswood High School graduate, and coming home to Frederick County was very important to both of us. I'm also a teacher for Frederick County Public Schools. I taught in Shenandoah County for 7 years, and then decided I wanted to give back to my hometown instead of giving back to a community that I wasn't invested in. I've worked here for 3 years, and I am more proud to be a member of an educational community that has poured into me for years and years, and I get to be a part of that every day. I have a daughter who just started kindergarten this year and a son who will also be in Frederick County schools in 2 years. And my plan is to raise my family in Frederick County. But after comparing the tax information with neighboring communities, I now believe I am doing my family a disservice by being employed by the county school system that I was so excited to be a part of. I'm the kind of teacher that is being recruited away by the counties that can offer a higher salary. I live in Stevenson, and I currently commute 15 minutes to work every day. If I add an additional 15 minutes to my commute, I can bring home almost $25,000 more with the same degrees and the same experience. And I know that a slight tax increase does not go directly to the school system. I totally understand that, but it will trickle down eventually. Thus helping to keep teachers who love this community as much as I do to stay and continue to invest in the children who we hope will become productive members of the same community that we love. I understand that the increases and decreases of taxation are inevitable, and it is most significant to me as a parent of 2 small children. If I drive an extra 15 minutes, I can provide them with so many more opportunities in terms of travel, savings for college, extra tutoring if needed, and supplemental experiences that they will miss out on in this county due to lack of funding. I am not asking for an increase of 10 cents in taxes. I'm asking for a sign of good faith. An increase of 6 or 7 cents, a plan of an increase of 6 or 7 cents would allow you all the flexibility to fund programs throughout the county in terms of safety, health, and education. I'm just asking that you please make a plan that shows that you share the same vision for the growth and well-being of this community for everyone in it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dawn Spitzer.
Good evening. My name is Dawn Spitzer, and I've been a resident of the Gainsborough District for almost 4 years. I'm a concerned citizen, a parent of 2 small children, and a teacher. My prior teaching experience took place in Washington County, Maryland, just an hour north of here. I taught 9th and 10th grade English, and I now teach 11th grade English at Millbrook. When I moved to Frederick County, a few things happened. First, my salary decreased by about $8,000. Second, my insurance costs increased significantly, and my coverage decreased. Third, when I got to work, I was told there were not enough classrooms, but the county hoped to build a 4th high school to address the overcrowding. So I was given a cart on wheels. Then I checked my rosters. In my prior teaching position in Maryland, I had 78 students on my rosters for the school year. In my first year of teaching in Frederick County, I had 119 students. That's 41 additional students on my rosters. I want you to understand the impact that 41 additional students has had on me as a teacher. I'm going to talk numbers for a second, but like I said, I'm an English teacher, so I used my calculator. Over my 3 years at Millbrook, I've had an average of 103 students on my rosters in a given school year, so we'll use that number. When those 103 students submit any assignment, they need teacher feedback, also known as grading. Let's say I spend 5 minutes giving feedback to each student on my roster. Any teacher can tell you that that 5 minutes is never enough, but let's pretend it is. 5 minutes spent helping each student grow as a reader and a writer means that I'll spend 515 minutes giving feedback on just one assignment. That equals 8.5 hours of time spent. Over the course of a 5-day week, I'm given either 4.5 hours of planning time or 3 hours of planning time. In the best case scenario, if I want to give 5 minutes of feedback to each student, I've got 3.5 hours of work that I need to do outside of my given planning time. In addition to that 3.5 hours of additional work time, I haven't addressed any of my other responsibilities as a teacher. So you get the idea. The workload of a teacher is too great, but Frederick County's high enrollment numbers make teaching here near unmanageable. Part of the funding requested by the Board of Education will allow for an additional English teacher and a teacher of record for the English department at Millbrook High School. This funding is critical to our students. As an intelligent, educated person, I find teaching to be rewarding, but in Frederick County, the sheer numbers of students on my rosters is overwhelming. If we want our students to have a quality education taught by competent adults, Frederick County must provide funding that addresses the overcrowding and class size issues. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jerry Swager.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jerry Swager, and I'm a resident of the Gainsborough District. If you build it, they will come. In Frederick County, we can relate to this famous movie line all too well over the past several years. They come because of expanding businesses, growing revenue, and a bustling housing market. As of December 2018, in the urban development area alone, there were nearly 6,200 zoned and approved residential lots in the county, with an additional 1,800 residential lots that are construction ready. That doesn't include over 4,000 potential units on land that has already been zoned with a generalized development plan, nor the thousands of lots that are ready to go outside the UDA, including another 1,300 in Lake Frederick, which you rezoned to be non-age restricted. With building permits averaging 700 per year for the past 3 years, they are not only coming, they are here. So in an area growing such as ours, it doesn't take an Einstein to know that if you work to bring business and growth to a community, you must also support the need for more public services to handle the demands of that growth. More business means more people, which means more traffic, more congestion, more housing, and more children. These things equate to the need for more police officers, more fire and rescue personnel, more maintenance and repair, and more vehicles and equipment to support these services. I'm not an economics expert by any means, but any second or third grader in Virginia can tell tell you it's simple supply and demand. More people means more demand, and more demand creates a scarcity of goods and services. As the governing board that represents this entire community, you must support and fund our public services. You don't have to be an Einstein to know that if you work to bring business and growth, prosperity, and competition to the community on one side of the economic equation, you must also plan for and provide funding for similar growth and competitive advantage on the service side. This includes support and funding for the local schools. You can't celebrate economic development victories like Amazon, Clorox, or Navy Federal if you won't then support funding to help Frederick County Public Schools handle the same growth, thrive in the same community, and maintain a competitive advantage over our neighboring counties. But while more students fill our classrooms each year, many years of consistent general underfunding of our schools has made it nearly impossible for us to compete. It shouldn't take an Einstein to understand we need replacement buses and we need repairs to make our infrastructure so that we don't have to keep replacing buildings instead of building additional buildings to add the space we so desperately need. It shouldn't take an Einstein to recognize that we need positions and we need pay increases that will keep our talented teachers here while attracting more of the best during a national teacher shortage. It's maddening to watch everything around us prosper and grow while we are bound by unnecessary budget constraints during a time of economic prosperity. We do need to compete, and we need funding to do so. We need the Einsteins and the Bader Ginsburgs, the Salks, the Lincolns and the Edisons, the Curies and the Dickinsons, or any other inspirational figures in our world. We need them to teach because we need the best and the brightest, and our community's children deserve nothing less. As a board, you represent the entire community, not just a small minority. You built it, and they came. Now it's time to fund it. I urge you to fully support our public services and fully support our schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer Muldowney. Jennifer Muldowney.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Muldowney. I am a resident of the Redbud Run District, and I have lived in Frederick County for 17 years. Both of my children attend Frederick County Public Schools. I have 21 years experience in education, 13 of those years here in Frederick County. I have worked here as a teacher, an assistant principal, and I currently serve as principal of Greenwood Mill Elementary School. I want to publicly thank the Frederick County Sheriff's Office for supporting Frederick County Public Schools by adding 2 school resource officers to support our elementary schools. Although we share 2 among the 11 elementary schools, and many more are needed, it is powerful to watch the positive connections between the SROs and our students. It has been extremely helpful to have this resource as we navigate daily challenges to keep our schools safe. It is my hope that additional resource officers will be added to ensure the safety of our schools, and I urge the board to provide funding for our safety departments in order to make this happen. In my opinion, our school board and school division leaders do the very best they can with what they have been provided to keep our division moving forward. However, it is clear that repeatedly we face budget cuts, and not for wants, but for critical needs. Hard decisions must be made, and needs are sacrificed for other needs. As a principal, I see the direct impact of these tough decisions. Staff are continually learning, growing, and changing as new challenges arise each day. Challenges that we have not faced in the past. They are constantly adapting and displaying flexibility for the children of Frederick County. These sacrifices are made in efforts to give our children the best that they can each and every day. This year alone, at this point in time, Greenwood Mill is losing at least 2 veteran teachers to Loudoun County. This is a great loss for Frederick County, so many ways. These are our teacher leaders who mentor our new teachers. These are the innovative minds who have dedicated their lives to ensuring children of Frederick County Public Schools are successful. They cannot be replaced. A greater misfortune is that they are leaving due to the benefits for their families financially and for no other reason. They love their community, their school, their colleagues, and their students. They simply need a better financial foundation for their own families to prosper and grow. Albert Einstein once said, Education is not the learning of the facts. It is rather the training of the mind to think. I implore you to think about the impact that your decisions will have on our students and staff as you determine the budget allocations to Frederick County Public Schools and to the Sheriff's Office. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Shaniqua Williams.
Good evening, Chairman DeHaven and fellow supervisors. My name is Shaniqua Williams, and I'm a resident of the Shawnee District, and I serve as the president of the Frederick County Education Association. Dr. Silvine's proposed budget takes the steps needed to address the pressing needs of our county and focuses on the school board priorities that they set in November. Tonight, I am asking you to fund the proposal of Supervisor Slaughter, as doing so will begin to allow the school board to address their priorities of improving student achievement, having competitive salaries to keep and retain high-quality educators, asset preservation to help with critical maintenance projects and replacement buses so our students can continue to get to and from school safely, in addition to professional development to address the mental health needs of our students. These are needs of Frederick County Public Schools. I'm asking you to fund our future. Vote yes on the proposed budget so our families want to send their students to our schools and to attract quality educators to teach our amazing students. What is proposed may not fund all the staff positions that were requested, but will start the county schools in the right direction to address ever-growing classroom sizes and will aid the school district in the goal to continue to provide the best education to our community families. Fund our future because our county needs to continue our commitment to address the highest quality and best educators possible to work with our students. Funding the proposed budget will allow the schools to address the gap in education funding. Virginia educators make on average $9,400 less than the national average. Fund our future so the important work can be done to keep and retain our professionals in this beautiful community. Funding the budget will allow the schools to continue to focus on professional development. No matter what area of life we all live, you should strive to never stop learning. Frederick County Public Schools has planned to expand the professional development opportunities to help recognize the increasing mental health concerns in our community, in our county schools. Fund our future and show the students in Frederick County schools that you care about the whole child. Fund our future so Frederick County schools can address the aging building and resources. This allows the schools to make sure that our students and staff are safe and have a healthy, clean building to work, learn, and teach. These are necessities. As Frederick County continues to grow, the spaces we have must grow with us to help us implement best instructional practices. I appreciate you taking the time to hear from the Frederick County Education Association. In summary, we are asking you to fund our future so Frederick County schools can continue their strides to help our children reach new heights. Funding our future helps the school board begin to address improving student achievement, having competitive compensation, and preservation of our assets. You are the funding body. Hear your constituents loud and clear and fund our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Lamanna.
Oh.
Chairman DeHaven, board members. I'm John Lamanna, Chairman of the Frederick County School Board and resident of the Stonewall District. I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for engaging in dialogue about the superintendent's proposed budget supported by the school board over the past several weeks and seeking clarification to questions you've had about the proposal. I especially want to thank Ms. McCain-Slaughter for putting forward a proposal that will provide more funding for our schools, in particular funding to address the preservation of assets. I would ask the full board to support her proposal, but recognize that a great deal of the additional funds she's recommended are just one-time funds. This is concerning as ongoing maintenance and equipment replacement requires recurring funding. While I'm in support of her proposal, I do have some concerns. First, I'm concerned about our ability to provide teachers and other staff with a pay increase that mirror those provided to the county government staff. Although this has been a long-term commitment between our boards, none of the county budget scenarios being considered provides the schools with the funds to do that in fiscal year 20. The challenge is driven by the size of the school division and the fact that education is labor-intensive, as you know. Quite simply, it takes about $1.2 million to provide all school employees with an average 1% raise, while it takes far less to do that same thing for the county government employees. Offering competitive salaries is a critical part of being able to attract and retain high-quality employees. Secondly, I am concerned about the desire expressed by some to fund the school division categorically. In my view, categorical funding creates an unnecessary hindrance to the school divisions being able to respond quickly and efficiently to situations that warrant a rapid response. To those who argue that categorical funding is needed to ensure transparency, I would remind you that the Board of Supervisors receives a quarterly financial report from the school division in which all budget transfers between categories are noted. To those who argue that categorical funding is needed in order to provide supervisors with oversight over the school division's budget, I would remind you that the school board is a duly elected corporate body whose responsibilities include determining the best use of funding provided to the school division, including those funds appropriated by the Board of Supervisors. I'd also like to take the opportunity to support the request from the Sheriff's Office for the funding needed to place a school resource officer in each one of our schools. For specifics regarding our support of this request, I point you to the resolution approved by the school board and sent to you last June on this matter. Finally, I would again encourage the Board of Supervisors to develop and execute a long-range fiscal plan to help address not only the needs of the school division, but other critical needs in our community to include public safety. Each year, these needs and requests receive a great deal of attention during the budget process, but there appears to be little public dialogue and planning outside the budget cycle. The need for our community has increased and mounted over time. It will take time to address those needs, but a plan has to be developed collaboratively and with a commitment to execute the plan that is developed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
John Wright.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. John Wright from the Red Bud District. I'm president of the Frederick County Professional Firefighters Association. I rise in support of the advertised budget. Having followed along throughout the entire budget process, we saw the request for additional fire and rescue staffing cut from 23 additional positions, which included 18 firefighters, an assistant chief, 3 EMS supervisors, and 1 additional assistant fire marshal, down to the advertised 7 positions, which include only 6 firefighters and the assistant chief position. While every position and capital item requested for FY20's budget can be justified, we understand that not all of these items can be addressed in one budget cycle. Thus, Frederick County must commit to a strategic plan to phase in the recommendations from the completed comprehensive study of fire and rescue. The Fire and Rescue Steering Committee suggests taking a methodical approach to address the deficiencies that were pointed out within the fire and rescue system. With the continued growth and ever-changing demographics in the county, the board needs to address the safety of the citizens and the visitors of this community, now and not after a catastrophic emergency, being proactive instead of reactive. Fire and Rescue alone responded to almost 1,000 additional emergencies in 2018, a sharp increase in only 1 year. The call volume will only continue to increase, not decrease. We must have the resources to meet the demand that is being placed on the fire and rescue system. On a side note, I would like to publicly acknowledge the teachers and the school officials here tonight and throughout the county for their work that they do each and every day for our children. As a parent of 3 students in the school system, 2 Admiral Byrd Huskies and 1 Greenwood Mill Gator, I am very appreciative of the high-quality education that my boys and other students in this county receive. I encourage the board to maintain the high-quality education that the school system provides by working with the school board to meet their needs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Those are all the folks that have signed up, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Who else would like to speak? Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Honorable Chairman, my name is Terry Martin. I'm represented by the Honorable Mr. Wells. I moved here 2 years ago, and I told it it's not the Opaquan district. I am a retired service member of nearly 3 decades. I chose to be an educator after that because of my love of giving back for everything that I saw taken away. We moved here 2 years ago from Arkansas, so my wife and I fell in love with the district, and that's the route we chose. I'm not here to make an eloquent speech, but I do want to tell you just a real brief story, and some of you can relate to it. In 2004, when we were in the desert, Secretary Rumsfeld came over to talk to the troops because there was much discomfort and strife going on based on the fact that we were not ready to go to war. When he had a question and answer with the troops, a young specialist spoke truth to power. He asked Mr. Rumsfeld, he said, "Sir, why are we being pushed into a war when we are inadequately prepared, both materially and personnel-wise, to compete?" Mr. Rumsfeld told young Specialist Wilson that we go to war with the army that we have, not the army that we want or we wish we had. I have to tell you that after seeing the budget that the superintendent submitted, I hope you can see as I'm seeing the parallels between the two. I feel at times that we're being asked to do something that we are inadequately prepared to do, we're underfunded, and we don't have the personnel. We spent the last 3 weeks, nearly 24 hours, trying to staff middle schools to adequately prepare us for the future of the incoming number of people we have. By the time we open the new Ayler Middle School, we are going to need an addition to the Ayler Middle School. We don't even have the people that we need right now. We're 4 people short to be able to staff adequately the middle school, and this is just trying to get everybody on par on the same schedule to have continuity throughout the district. So I ask that you fully fund the superintendent's request and that you take into consideration, I hate that thing, that you take into consideration, I was a first sergeant, I like to talk, so you take into consideration the fact of what you're asking us to do. We're 4 short right now in continuity of middle schools, and by the time we get our school built, how many more short are we going to be? And that's with a fully supported budget. So are you asking us to go to war with what we have or what we need? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Laura Jarrell, and I'm a resident of the Opequon District, and I have 3 children who currently attend Bass Hoover Elementary. They are here with us tonight to represent the 25% of Frederick County's population that is under the age of 18. They don't get to vote, and they don't have a voice. So parents like myself and others, and teachers have to speak for them. I do not voluntarily speak in front of people, so this is obviously something I feel very strongly about. We moved to Stevens City 4.5 years ago, and we love it so much that we have planted ourselves in the community and want our kids to finish their public education in Frederick County. Having said that, I have grave concerns about how the Board of Supervisors funds our county schools. The people in leadership of our division, including the school board, are people of great integrity who truly want what is best for the children in our community. I see the needs of the schools in our county. The funds requested for next year's budget are not arbitrary. The FCPS budget request represents critical needs for our schools and the children they serve. I've heard comments such as students need adequate teachers and adequate buildings. Our kids deserve more than adequate. The truth is, we should all want better for the next generation. I know that I want my kids to be better off than I am, and it is our responsibility to make that happen for them. In addition, the decisions you are making in the name of saving money will end up costing the county and the taxpayers more in the long run. For example, not fully funding Ayler means it will likely be over capacity when it opens in 2 years. Having to discuss additions or modular units for a brand new school is ridiculous and will cost more than if the school was fully funded to begin with. And if Ayler is already over capacity when it opens, it will do nothing to relieve the current overcrowding at Byrd. My husband is a long-term sub at Byrd and sees the overcrowding in the halls every day. The kids can only walk in one direction because there's too many of them in the halls. We have to focus on our kids. It is time to invest in the next generation so they can, in turn, do that for the generation that comes after them. I urge you to please consider our kids as you make budgetary decisions. They deserve the best that we can give them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Brian Nuri. I'm a resident of the Opequon District. About 20 years ago, I happened to be reading in the Washington Post. They had a big 2-page spread talking about the growth of the I-66 corridor. 20 years ago, the Washington Post printed an article saying that D.C. is coming to Frederick County. Previous boards of directors kind of ignored that. That's the past. This present board has the ability to change that and to allow us to expand, because I believe it was about 6-7 months ago, I was remarking about how it was the beginning of the school year. And at the beginning of the year, my parents took us out to get clothes, and we never got the clothes that fit in August, September. We got the clothes that were going to fit us in January and February, when a growing kid was going to need some bigger jeans. And I'm seeing now, 6-8 months later, we're still talking about the same bunch of money, but we still have 2,000 housing units coming into the Stevens City, Middletown area alone. We've known about these areas for over 20 years. What are we waiting on? A couple of weeks ago, I happened to be in Northern Virginia judging a forensics tournament for Sharando High School. Spent the night with a couple of friends of mine, and they said, "We saw your comments on Facebook." Man, I tell you, we would kill for tax rates like yours. We would literally kill for a 5% sales tax. In Prince William County, they have 6. They said, "I cannot believe you guys are getting by with a 58 cent on the $100 for personal property." They pay $1.12 per $100. But then her husband looked at her and said, "Yeah, but sweetie, our roads are really nice, our sheriff's deputies are top-notch, and our schools are second to none." They'd rather stay there and pay the tax rate because they understand in order to get anything good, you got to pay for it. If you want nice shoes, you got to spend a little extra on them. I'm pretty sure none of you are sitting here in Walmart special shoes because you wanted nice shoes. I want nice shoes. We all do. But the biggest thing right now is we want nice schools. I know I went to school with at least one of the members of the school board, or of the Board of Supervisors here. We had good teachers in the 90s at James Wood. And it's because they were supported by the community. No matter what they could or couldn't pay, the community supported it. Now we have extracurricular activities that are begging for nickels and dimes. Please think about the future. Think about what Frederick County should have planned for 20 years ago, and think about what we have today to fix. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Kuntz. I'm a resident of Frederick County for 15 years, 10 years in Redbud. I am a teacher, not for this county. I get paid the big bucks, apparently, in Loudoun. I've only ever taught there, so I did not switch, but probably would join the other teachers and do that if I had started here. I am the mom of 2 children, a 3rd grader and a kindergartner, who are not here this evening, so I'm their voice. Although they would have had nowhere to stand because there's so much support here tonight. They're busy doing their homework. But I just wanted to be their voice and be the voice of all of the children who are not here and cannot be here, because I see the impact every day of good teachers. I teach middle school math, and I have the kids who have the teachers who said, oh, math is terrible, I hate math, and they grow up to hate math. And I see it in my 7th grade classroom all the time. Then I've got the students who clearly had the teachers who were loving them and taking the time to get to know them. And I think it's so sad to know that my kids who go to Greenwood Mill are losing 2 teachers, and I think there's going to be more and more every year. And I hate that my children are maybe getting people coming in who just are there and not quality. And I want to thank the teachers from Greenwood who are here, but also all the support staff, the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers, everyone who's still here for our students, but I think they need thanks for the job that they do. So while I know you're not willing to do a tax increase, if we could at least keep it the way it is right now and not lower it, I think that's the best for our students, and that's what my children would want, even though they don't understand all of this. They do understand what a quality teacher is, and I just hope that you keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Tierney. I'm David Savine, Superintendent of Frederick County Public Schools and a resident of the Shawnee District. Tonight, you've heard from a strong majority of speakers that have come out to voice their support for more funding for our public schools. Many of these residents have demanding work and family schedules, and I want to thank them for coming out to share their support for our children, our schools, and our community's future. I also want to thank Mrs. McCann Slaughter for her budget proposal, which provides more funding for our schools. While most of these increased funds are one-time dollars and not reoccurring, this is an incremental step in the right direction. I appreciate her effort to increase funding for our schools, and I ask that the full board support this budget proposal. I want to conclude with previous comments from my opening budget proposal on February the 20th. Wise and forward-thinking communities recognize that the foundation of a thriving community is the investment in the education of its youth. Frederick County Public Schools is certainly a point of pride for our community. I respectfully request that you invest in our schools. It's critical to our children and our community's future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else who would like to speak to the budget? Anyone? Anyone at all? Third and last call. We'll close the public hearing. All right, that will bring us to board liaison reports. Are there any? Citizen comments on any issue that you would like to bring to the board? Is there anyone who would like to bring any discussion issue at all before the board? Anyone? Third and last call. Close the public comment portion. Board of Supervisors comments. Are there any? Supervisor Wells.
Mr. Chairman, just a reminder
talking trash again. Please come out and support this event. It's our first one. The staff has really worked hard to prepare for you. If you have time, please come by. Thank you all for coming out tonight, for showing support for our schools and our county. Much appreciated. And someone commented about all the people here, and my comment was, this is what the government is about, allowing people to express themselves and talk, and it only happens at our level, and that's great. And I think it's wonderful you're here tonight speaking to your board and making your comments, and they were well heard, well received. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Dunn.
I'd also like to go and thank you, and for those of you that are in Redbud, if you want to talk to me afterwards, I'll be glad to chat with you, in more depth. This county is grown, and as one person made the comment on the growth, let me just reiterate a couple figures. From 1900 to 1990, this county grew 32,000 people. In the last 27 years, this county has grown 40,000 people. In the last 19 years, since 2000, the county has grown 30,000 people. I've been on this board for 3 years. In the last 3 years, we've had a tax increase of approximately 30%. So the mean has been 30% increase, and the average has been 27% increase, which has resulted in approximately a $350 increase on average, some more, some less. So for those that have advocated to increase taxes, we have done that in the last 3 years. And Ms. McCann-Slaughter's budget will fund approximately 91% of the school budget that's being requested. But on a much broader scale, we need to change, in my opinion, how we raise money. So there's 3 ways that we raise money. One is through a real estate tax. And that covers everybody. It covers the people that lived here all their life. It covers people that have just moved in. Second is through business growth, and that provides income for us. And third is going to be who pays for that. And I've advocated for the last couple of years changes on proper law and impact law. I went to Richmond twice to talk about the proper bill that got passed by the governor. But for the gentleman that made the comments about the open lots that are available, we need to have in my opinion, a change on impact fees to cover that cost. A couple of years ago, the average family that moved into this county cost the county approximately $19,000 to $20,000. That's a capital cost. And the question is, who pays for that? The people from New Jersey that are paying $9,000, $10,000 in taxes coming here and saying we have a low income tax rate, and you can easily afford to raise it to $5,000 instead of $1,500. For them, it's a tax decrease. But for the person who lives next door that's lived here all his life, that's a tax increase. So that's trying to balance this out. So I would ask you, as an audience, to help work with me and work with some other board members to try to address the bigger issue on impact fees and how you can go and do that. If you can do that, then you can deal with some of the costs that you're dealing with. And in a few months, I'm sure we're going to have another discussion on capital costs. And those capital costs are also significant. So if we can work together on that, we can achieve some results. We're not going to be agreeing on everything, but I think we can move forward together as a community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Trout.
So tonight, 21 people spoke in support of increasing our budget, or at least not decreasing it. 21. That doesn't include all of you sitting in the audience who didn't stand up and speak. It was not just please fund X, Y, and Z. It was please increase my taxes to fund X, Y, and Z. Please increase my taxes to fund my schools. Please increase my taxes so that we have SROs in our schools, so we have enough police officers. Please increase my taxes. It was not please give me money, but I don't know where you're going to get it from. I heard loud and clear where we need to get the money from. Looking at our data, and I know you guys only saw this for a minute, but our tax rate in the localities, we have a 61-cent tax increase. or tax cents per $100 of assessed value. Manchester City is 91 cents, and they just voted to increase it a couple of cents. So we're over 30 cents below the closest neighboring locality. So, out of curiosity, please entertain this. If you would support a real estate tax increase to support public services, and you're still here, could you please stand? Thank you. I think that that speaks louder than anything else that you have just said tonight. Of all of the things that you have asked us for, right there you just said, raise my taxes to support what we need. Raise my taxes so that this community can grow and not fall behind. It's not too late for us to make a change for this year. And Rod and Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that our tax bills are not due until June the 5th, which means if we adopt a tax rate in April, we can still mail out the tax bills and have our budget be adopted before July 1. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we only have to have 2 weeks in advance to advertise for a tax increase. Is that correct? Chris, Rod, possibly.
I'd honestly have to check on the dates.
That's fine. My point is that I said earlier in the budget process that I don't like the way the budget process works. Here we are, basically with our minds made up with the very elaborate budget that Chris gave to us, excuse me. Where with it, it's already done, and now we're having the budget hearing. We haven't heard from our constituents. We've made the decision, and now we're listening to you and basically saying, what's done is done. It's done for this year. We'll get to it next year. To me, that's not right. That's not why I ran for office. That's not why I'm sitting behind this dais. That's not the purpose of why I'm here. So I would like to suggest to the board that we consider advertising an increase in our taxes for this year, not for next year, put it in the paper, have another public hearing, and then possibly consider giving the full funding to the school division that was requested so we don't fall further behind.
Any other comments, anyone? We certainly do appreciate you coming out. We have greatest respect and appreciation for what you do for our community every day. None of these decisions are easy, but we appreciate your participation. Vice Chairman Lofton.
Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. We'll stand adjourned.